for helping us with that. Um, tough times we're in, and I did study HR, and I did study how people get jobs, and I did study how they keep them. Nothing like what it is today. It's amazing to me how things have changed. So, ready for chat. What was your industry before COVID? So let me know. I know that there's one person who's in travel. That's you, Lisa. What were your industries, folks? It'll help me make this presentation more. Pharmaceuticals, okay, travel, good. Legal services, Rosa. What else do we have here? Public relations, content development. All right. All right, looks like that's what we have for now. Oh, good. Advertising, sales, small group health insurance, software for fast food companies. Interesting. All right, with that in mind, so numbers game. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you you're going to find a job in your former industry? Where totally confident, I'm going to find it, or I don't think so. 5, a 7, an 8, 7, 3. All right, so we're across the map a little bit. And I don't actually want a job in my former industry. I get it. I get it. Okay, one more here. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? I just need a job. That's a 1. 10 is I'm holding out for the right job or the perfect job. Three, 7, 7, 5, 8. Okay, another 8. So you need a not totally desperate yet, but I want something that's going to fit. Good. I'm glad I'm not seeing 10s across the board, because I don't know that the right job exists anymore. We'll talk about that. Very good. Thank you, everybody. So there's my PR picture. I've never been more confident that people who are flexible, willing to consider different possibilities, will move through COVID challenges and secure employment. I'm seeing it happen. Flexible, willing to consider. And I think that's everybody here. So here's what we're going to do today. There are some takeaways from early COVID I think we need to review. And there's some takeaways from mid-COVID we're going to review. And that's going to bring us up to the resume challenges today, new networking challenges that we're seeing, HR and recruiter changes and trends, and are employment agencies starting to play a bigger role? Yes, spoiler alert. And what you could do right now, here in December 2020, in terms of moving your career forward. So, COVID has accelerated everything. Many of the changes we are seeing today, they were already happening before time. So it is accelerating. However, the old rules of business for economic growth, it's changing. The economic growth is changing. So we no longer know what a best practice is. A best practice for a restaurant, we don't know what that is anymore. So we have to adapt. We have to be ready to respond and do so quickly. And that's why you're here today. Take malls. Malls were closing before COVID. People were moving out. There were vacant stores. So that was already happening. Commercial properties and as well, they were moving through as well. We're seeing a lot more transition of commercial properties. Wow, hotels, motels, this really accelerated and hit this industry very hard. Retail and clothing stores, have all been hit hard, but we knew that they were going online before COVID. It simply accelerated that they are going online. The old brick and mortar, so much is going online these days that a lot of the brick and mortars are finding themselves closing. So COVID has accelerated that as well. Now here's another one, overserved sectors. If you've ever been down to New York, I expect you have. How many coffee shops do you need in a given block? How many places to get a haircut or a hairstyle? So we've made assumptions about product availability. If I've been able to open up one Pizza Hut, I'll open up another one across town. That'll work, that'll be okay. But pretty soon we have market saturation. And I think we're seeing some of that. And COVID has accelerated our sense of market saturation as well. So some takeaways from early COVID. We knew this. We're going to think out of the box. There's the box. Oh my. The perfect job is probably likely extinct. And the perfect career, the word career, is probably now extinct as well. So at this point, what are we doing? It's a new world goal, maintain and grow a consistent income stream. That's our goal. We need to get the money that we need to pay our bills, hopefully have enough to put aside for the future, and also have enough to help those who need help. So actually, I think there's 4 things. Pay our bills, put some away for the rainy day, put some away for long-term planning, and also help people who are in a difficult place. So there's 4 things. We want to have a consistent income stream to be able to do that. So we're going to have to be able to change our hats. I like these hats. I think pistachio ice cream there is my favorite. It looks like there's chocolate chips in the pistachio, kind of like that. Think differently. Early in the COVID, we had to find out what people were hiring. We had to go to who was hiring. So many places weren't hiring. They were shedding employees. So the people that were hiring were bombarded all over the place with so many people looking for jobs. So to find out what they were hiring, you had to know who was hiring. Then you go to their website and you find what they're hiring because they started changing the names of the roles that they were working with. So the language for the title of the position has changed. And language rules. If you don't take anything else away, we have to use language that people understand. Here's some key words that should be on your resume. These are the new must-haves: agility, flexibility, curiosity, resilience. So these are things that you should have on your resume. So early COVID career tips included thinking differently, expecting disruption, lockdown. You had to learn fast, help others find an opportunity, and watch the news. And we even considered the re-lockdown, that there was a possibility for that, and here we are. Recruiters are going to say, what did you do during COVID-19? And hopefully you're going to be able to say, I used this time to attend courses. There's a data analytics using Python and SQL at the Westport library that we learned about today, but you can find free online courses all over the internet as well. I took and completed a class at Harvard University online. That's going to be fairly impressive. There were new trends in hiring. Companies were pulling back on hiring nationally or globally and just looking locally first. So note to you, what are the companies in your location, even if you don't go in, that might be hiring? So there's more internal hiring and repurposing their staff, which means networking is critical. Gig workers are bridging the gap. that's contract workers, and we'll revisit this later in the presentation. And the hiring process is in flux, longer, shorter, depends. I had one person get the interview all the way to the CEO, and then it went dark for 2 months. Another person, it went dark for 4 days, which was kind of weird because the person was so excited, and then they reconnected. So it could be longer, it could be shorter. Permanent opportunities may be on hold. We talked a little bit earlier in COVID, we were talking about artificial intelligence and what it was doing and how people were using it, especially in the talent management platforms. So candidate potential has become your ability to, again, those 4 words that we talked about earlier, agility and so forth, those are becoming important. Things to watch, and this is still on board, this is still a hot topic. You might be contacted for a job you didn't apply for. That is a messaging moment, and that's what's critical. Your message out there on the internet has to be accurate. Messaging people on what's an appropriate job for you. Recruitment tracking, you know they use these applicant tracking systems, but they were not set up to do these virtual interviews and so forth. So it's becoming a little more difficult. We'll talk about this as well. And HR is still really pressured to get the highest quality candidates possible. And again, that's so that they can move up in the company. So they're doing a lot in succession planning. Remember, language rules. Your personal messaging is critical from the get-go. Know your personal message. So that brings us to mid-COVID, where we talked more about messaging. And here it is. Messaging was important, and stay to your script. Where's the message? On your resume and on LinkedIn. Wherever you have your resume and wherever it is on LinkedIn, that's your script. So we talk, if you attended one of these sessions, and they'll soon be out on the Forward Motion channel on YouTube, but LinkedIn Recruiter uses algorithms, and LinkedIn is becoming the place for recruiters to go to look for people. So the whole idea is that the algorithms decide who they see when they do a search. So make sure your messaging is correct and you stay to the script, your resume and LinkedIn. Now here are some people I worked with. What do they have in common? This person was in retail furniture supply chain, and she became a hospital planner. A luxury vacation marketer moved to pharma project coordinator, and a children's book writer became an online instructional designer for an insurance company. He's in San Francisco, the insurance company is in Texas, doesn't matter. They all switched to an industry that was deemed essential. So if you're thinking, I'd like to get a job in what I've done, that's fine if what you've done is deemed essential, because the people in essential industries know that they're not likely going to get shut down. So it's a safer place, and they're out there ready for hiring. Okay. So we can anticipate obvious questions. In the blue over on the left, this might be your current industry or sets of skills, but you want to move to a target industry, and there's overlap there. Well, you know they're going to ask you obvious questions about the skills in that industry that you don't have from your earlier career or former job. That's fine, that's obvious. But they're also going to ask you about your transferable skills because you've done these things. But I promise you, the language has changed. The language we used to describe an earlier job is not the language they know. So we have to change language. I'm working with a person who does training for companies. She works in HR, and she builds training programs and platforms and all sorts of things. She's doing it at a university right now. She wants to move into corporate. She can't use the word student. All of the people that work where she is right now is a student. But when she goes corporate, the word has to change to participant because that's what they use. Okay, so language is very important, and using current language to ensure that people understand what you mean when you talk about your transferable skills. All right. So how do we do these things on resumes? We have some challenges. People have choices regarding their next steps. They might have 3 or 4 different options. I came into the corporate world as an orchestra conductor. You want to talk about a difficult change of venue. So I couldn't talk about an orchestra member. I couldn't talk about a student. So I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to be? What can I do? The possibilities were trainer, corporate trainer, adult educator, if you will. And I did that, but they call it training programs. I called it rehearsal. So I had to change my vocabulary. I could have done operations, nonprofit operations, and I could have done project management because every concert is a project. Classic project. Has a start date, has an end date, has scope, has resources. I could talk project management, but I couldn't use the word orchestra concert. So with that in mind, language, language, language. So you have choices. The market's fickle, so your resume has to have flexibility to accommodate the language. Flexibility. So networking is a challenge for your resume because if I say, well, I can do corporate training, I can do operations, I can also do project management. What do I say in a networking meeting? What do I give them for a resume? If I put it all on there, do I water it down? How do we manage these changes on our resume in the networking point? And how do we manage these multiple messages? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through a process that we've worked on, and then I'm going to show it to you. So first the steps, and then we'll take a look at it bit by bit. So here's what we did. We wrote down all the possible choices of search terms that would bring possible opportunities. When you go to Indeed, when you go to LinkedIn, what do you put in the search box? We wrote all of them down. Then we put ones together that were very similar. We gave them a heading. And then we defined what the top skills were for each one of them. And we created a 1 or 2 pager on each skill topic using bullets from the past experience. So here was our original list. It's kind of hard to see. You don't need to see it. But the original list, I was writing a scrambling as fast as I could with this person. And then when we were done, okay, I wrote them down so you could read them. So taking a look at this list, and she said, this is just half of them. So client services, well, all of these 4 came into client services. And looking more carefully at the list, these came under business operations. And then project management. Oh, so now how do we put that together? So we think about the industry because we need the language. What's the industry? What is how can we identify the reader? Is it going to be HR? Is it going to be someone in the company? Is it a small, is it a big company? Whatever we know about our reader. And then the language that they expect to see, and also the ability to prioritize what they see and when they see it. Then we design the resume. So our goals are to save the reader's time, make it easy to find what they're looking for. They will not read an entire resume. It's very, very rare. They don't even read top to bottom. They don't read left to right. They graze around on the page. So I've learned, keep bullets short and easy to read. White space is your friend. And I'll show you how we do some of this. So here's a 1-pager on staff management. Person also does business development and marketing, project management, account relationship management. Suppose we apply for a project management job. Well, I could move that up to the top because this is a one-pager. All of these things are going to fit, and I can put what's most important to the reader up on top. Now, if it was staff management, that's what I'd want up there, right? So we'll go into a deeper dive into this just a second. So here's a one-pager on marketing and sales, and you see that business development, digital marketing, and sales. A part of that's relationship management. A part of that might be staff and vendor management. And finally, the operations portion of it, which is always there as well. And we just created a little chart at the bottom so people could get an idea. What's been their leadership experience? What has been their communication and their strategic planning experience? So what we did here, these bullets are the composite. They might come from 5 different jobs, but this is what a person did during their career. So it's very hard if you've been in a single lineup to say, okay, at this place I did ABC, and then you do the next one at this pace, I did ABC as well. And then you get to the 3rd or 4th one, it's like, I'm still telling them I did A, B, and C, and they're probably bored and don't want to read all that. So with that in mind, we don't want to be redundant, and we want people to find what they're looking for. So we want that clear and easy to find. Now, this is a one-pager for a nonprofit manager, and he has done nonprofit management, and we have highlights. Remember, if you're going to narrow it down, the bullets you do put in have to be spectacular. Let's take a look at this guy. Nonprofit, he does fundraising. These are some projects. And down here, you can choose any one of these that he's done. He organized their camp, how many participants there are. I say camp because of the Boy Scouts. He's organized their fundraisers, how many participants there are, what was the purpose, how many volunteers, how much did they raise. So we created this chart to say a lot in a very small bit of space. People don't have to read what's up here if all they need is down here. So that's a good thing as well. Same individual does business development. These are places where he has worked, and this is what he has done that was significant. And at no place did we cross over. In other words, we want to show this person as somebody who can, this is somebody who can, with relative ease, fit into any situation. Okay. All right, so those are some resume challenges and how to handle them. Do you have any questions? Ellen, anything come in? You'll need to unmute. Ellen, are you there?
I'm here. No questions have come in so far.
Okay, we're going to have an opportunity in just a few minutes here. Another one. Thanks, Ellen.
You're welcome.
So the resume is the foundation of your networking because it's your script along with LinkedIn. So when we change your resume, it changes your networking foundation. So what does that mean? There's some good news with this in terms of networking. I don't know about you folks, but networking is not my favorite thing to do. I'm a total introvert. I'm performing right now in front of a green dot, and I know there are people behind it, but take me into a room and tell me to network with it, and I'll look around the outskirts of the room, find the one individual who's not talking to anyone else, and go stand with that person and ask some questions. The good news is that because of our ability to connect now online with fair ease, meetings are easier to attend. Remote workers and flex time, there's more time available to meet because we don't have to travel. So there's advantages here. And you don't have to wear don't have to do this either. Oh, drive me nuts. But the challenge is when you're looking for other kinds of positions other than what you've had, what do you say? So going back to our example, I'm a person, I have 3 areas of expertise and credibility. Client services, which includes client relations and sales support, business operations, vendor management, contract management, but also project management, including support, coordination, whatever's needed with the project. Oh, so that tells the person that you have options. So what do we do in terms of what do we give them? Send me your resume, okay? Well, if you had a one-pager on each one of these, again, white space is your friend, you could then say, here are the 3 areas that I am qualified and believe that I can succeed with, and you give them the 3. So with that in mind, where do we network? You know the answer is everywhere. Now, HR had an interesting list, then I'll cover that in a little bit. So had a person got their bunion removed off their foot during COVID. Good time to get that done, right? And while he's at physical therapy, the person says, you know, I know that place down the street that they're hiring. Really? So he leaves and he calls them on his cell phone and he asks them if they're interested. The guy says, can you work 40 hours a week? Yeah, let's talk Monday. What was the new place? GEESE Relief. These are very talented border collies. These border collies know how to intimidate geese. And they do intimidate geese because if you've ever been in a park where geese have been, you understand the problem quickly. So parks, cemeteries, playgrounds, you name it. And the guy asked him, is there seasonality to this job? He said, no, doesn't get cold enough here. The geese stay. All right, very good. So you never know where you're going to find opportunity because it's not what you know or who you know, it's who they know. That's what's important here. On LinkedIn, if you want to find connections to network with, you simply click on your connections. And if you click on somebody, it'll bring up their connections. So with that in mind, you can find people at companies where you're applying. I have a client, I asked her to connect with people that do what she does. She's an IT specialist. She works with IT risk. And so finding people where she's applying is really critical to her job search and having your message ready. But that's how you can find some people. Oh, and I really like finding people that used to work for the company that somebody's applying to because they don't have anything to lose. They don't work there. They don't have to be afraid they'll say something wrong. Could be very good. So finding people that used to work at a company. It's lunchtime. Looks pretty good. Prosciutto, cabbage, lettuce, mayo. Looks pretty good. Well, I have a client that used to write insurance policies, and he looked through the list of all the people for whom he'd written insurance policies. And there's a young man, he's in his early 40s, and he wrote insurance policies for like 4 different companies. So we contacted the guy and said, let's have lunch. They had lunch. The next week, they went skeet shooting. Now, I don't really understand skeet shooting myself. I think maybe it's a guy thing, but it's okay. They went skeet shooting. So things were going, okay, we're going to talk about this. And somebody said, well, let's have a cup of coffee. So they had a cup of coffee. But at the end of the cup of coffee, the guy said, I don't think this will ever work. It was just a terrible moment. I don't think it's going to work. We've had coffee. We've gone skeet shooting. Why is there a problem here? Well, they got to talking about it. And the guy just said, no, there's no way through this that I can see. So, okay, they parted ways. We waited 2 weeks. And then he got a text message. Let's have lunch. So it seemed like back to square one, but this time now they're negotiating how they can move forward. So playing the cards with your networking, getting the message right, and so forth. All good stuff. So we've talked about the resume, maybe how to put together a framework for a resume that utilizes all the places you've worked. In all the places you've worked, what are your customer service skills? All the places you worked, what is your business analysis skills? So those buckets that you have on a one-pager that you can shift up and down and so forth, depending on the job, might be a help to you. And then knowing the language and moving forward to, with regard to networking, finding ways to network, critical, critical, critical. All right, does anybody have any questions?
I don't see anything coming up in the chat room right now.
It's an easy group.
I know.
Okay. So there are recruiter trends and changes, and I've just selected a few that I think are important for job seekers today. With regard to COVID, if employers, they could find themselves in court if employees don't feel they're protected. So you know they're going to go a little bit overboard to stay out of those legalities. This was an interesting one. Companies are buying electronic tracing devices so they can track where a person is, how close they are to other people. They've sold this to more than 60 very large companies. It's called Check-In. So it's an app for PwC, and they can track everything you're doing, whether you're on your computer or whatever it is you're doing. Users can use proximity scores and determine who should stay home, who should get tested. And they tell us it is privacy centric. I'm not so sure about that, but I'll let you make your own decision. I went out to the SHRM website. That's the Society of Human Resource Managers. And it's all COVID. Everything is consumed with COVID. COVID this, COVID that. Childcare during COVID, this is all COVID. And in the right-hand corner, see all coronavirus resources. There were tons. All right, oops, sorry about that. Here we go. So Gartner, they're actually here in Connecticut. And they are doing a lot of research, and they're very well respected here. And they had some career interview tips, so I thought I'd look at it. I thought they're pretty good. They said that companies are relying heavily on virtual meetups and social media. You know that. And their objective is successful networking, is about building relationships. And they say it's a two-way street. So for you, before reaching out and asking for a job, think about what you can offer. For example, I'm in a group here at Westport, a job seekers group. Who are you looking for? You might say to the recruiter, and let me see if there's anybody that might be of interest to you. They said that companies are prioritizing health and safety of everybody because of COVID, and they're adopting new best practices, which we've talked about, are accelerating. So the goal is to build personal rapport. So for you, treat your virtual interview the same way you would a traditional in-person meeting. And then it said you can find virtual tips here. So I clicked on the here, and here were the virtual tips. Choose a distraction-free workspace. That's sound as well as visual. I put the dogs out before we started this. Okay. Verify your technology. Ellen and I were on the technology at half an hour before we started to make sure it was working. And that's especially important for an interview. I've always wondered how to check the lighting, and the lighting is this. Can they see your facial expression? That's how you know if the lighting is going to work. And finally, Create a backup plan in the event the technology doesn't work. So those were good interview guidance. The other piece was develop a routine to get ready for the interview. Dress for the interview, compile all the information. And they made the comment, print out your resume. And then they said, the people on the other side of the virtual interview, they're going to have your resume printed out. So have that. Be enthusiastic and demonstrate your excitement. Okay. Eye contact with the camera. Now, my picture is on the right. If I turn to the right and look at my picture, I don't look like I'm looking at you. I have to look into the camera and smile to let you know I'm looking at you. Here's that list. This was interesting because I don't know that people use this list. Do we get in touch with all our classmates? Peers, career services people, that could be in high school, professors. Staying in touch with these people can be very, very helpful. And I realize that I need to do a better job. Anybody that you've worked with, stay in touch with them, communicate with them, and ask them what they're attending, what are they hosting, what do they know about, what's their situation, and get an idea of how you can help. I like that first word, proactively. Use LinkedIn to find and create networking opportunities. They made an interesting comment that I didn't know about. They said that there's live events on company websites with companies. You can practice interviewing skills, all of that good stuff. And they recommended that you comment on the company or the recruiter post from a place you want to work or where you've applied. It helps build relationship. And these LinkedIn live events, I went out to try to find some, and you have to go to the company page on LinkedIn, and you'll see, sometimes you'll see, okay, here are our live events that we're going to do. This is going to be quite short here, but future work trends, I know you want to know what do I need to do now? 32% of organizations are replacing full-time employees with contingent workers. That's a contract position. Short-term, maybe 3 months. It's a cost-saving measure because they're still unsure about what's going on. So contract work is up. That's a third of all hirings. So looking for contract work, don't be afraid of part-time to full-time. Don't be afraid of temporary to permanent. Don't be afraid of that. We also call it try it to see if you like it in the recruitment world. So they're moving from designing for efficiency to designing for resilience. This is a change in companies. And again, here's words that should be on your resume and you should be prepared to talk about. Agility, flexibility. When COVID-19 hit, I changed roles at my company to help with XYZ. That's agility, flexibility. Resilient. When my business work was on the downhill trend, I looked around, worked with marketing, and figured out ways to handle that, whatever that means. So those are kinds of things that tell a reader of your resume, you're resilient, you're agile, you're flexible. I think that hiring people are less wary of someone who's jumped from job to job now, because since the Great Recession, there's been a lot of that going around. But it also shows a person's ability to move from one situation to another. I'm not talking about a job of 3 months or 10 months, unless it's a contract position. But a year or two, then another job. In some industries, that is the norm. Very interesting. So I want to talk a little bit more about employment agencies, and I kind of have a funny way to do it here, but how do you find them? Well, I go out to my favorite browser, which is DuckDuckGo, and I look up employment agencies in Connecticut. There's a lot of them, and they are also called staffing agencies, and they are also industry specific. I have an office building about a mile from my house, Nice. And they are specific in the financial sector. There's also people that, hey, I have 5 days off. I'm with an agency. They're going to send me over here to lift boxes. They're going to send me over there to do office work. So you take a look at the jobs here, $14 to $41 an hour, and you see it's across the map. So be sure to get the right kind of agency, and I'll tell you what happens when you go to one. So that's part of what to do right now. Go to an agency, get your resume and yourself filed within agency databases so they can find you, especially during the seasons here. Right now where seasonal employment goes up. So what to do today? Today is December 9th, 2020, and here's my thought about what to do. All right, here it comes. Seasonal jobs. Find seasonal jobs. That's the first thing. And they're all over the place. And you can put findseasonaljobs.gov.ct. They're all over. So I had a client, and he had been out of work for about 4 months. And he was a marketing person for an area CPTV, so television station. And his wife went up and said, honey, get a job. Get a job. I don't care what the job is. Get a job. Get something. So he calls me up. I remember I was in the post office parking lot, and I turned the motor off, and we talked. And he said, my wife says I should get a job. What do you think? I said, I think you should get a job. Anything. Get hired. So he went to UPS, and he called me, I think it was the next day, and said, you can get a job at UPS if you have a pulse. They'll find something for you to do. Okay, he was in his 40s, good shape, was fit. So he worked for UPS. Then he went to an agency. Seasonal work. After seasonal was over, he went to an agency, and they interviewed him and found out what his sets of skills were, looked at his resume, knew the people that are going to agencies these days and asking them to find the right person lowers the risk for the business in case the person doesn't work out. They put him in a job. It was just a desk job, filing, pushing paper. It was incredibly less of a job responsibilities than what he had before or what he was capable of. But he talked to people, talked to them about what they were doing and what he did. He got to know them, and they hired him and put him back in marketing. So finding seasonal work, go to coolworks.com, seasonworkers.com. And I suggest that you volunteer, things you can do today. If you're going to volunteer, and I suggest you do 2 things. First, discuss the amount of time that you're going to give for each week. I'd be happy to donate 5, 10, I don't know, 20 hours a week, and the time period. And let's give it a trial period of 2 to 3 weeks. So let's try it for 2 to 3 weeks and see how it's working out. Maybe you find that what they want you to do needs less time. So you say, let's reduce this. Or you think, they need more help and I could do that. So you decide to up it from 10 to 12 hours a week. So 2 things, how much time each week and how many weeks. Big advantages as a volunteer. Increase your network. Take your focus off yourself. This is a hard time of year. Use your skills, get new skills, build your resume, get references. Increase your self-esteem because giving helps that and possibly could lead to full-time work. I don't like networking. I'm sort of a introvert, big time. And when I started this business, I do have a business coach. And one of the things that became evident was that I don't like networking. And this is a referral business. So if nobody refers Forward Motion doesn't have any business. And the coaching was, this might be a place where you need to grow. Yeah, no fooling. And here's what I learned. I had to want it more than I was afraid of it. And the more desperate you get, the more you want it. Don't wait. So get out there and start networking. I think that virtual networking is so much easier. You don't have to get dressed up. You don't have to buy coffee. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to find a parking space. You don't have to look at people coming into the coffee shop and wondering which is the person you're supposed to talk to. It's a lot easier today, and people are comfortable. Volunteer, employment agencies, recruiters, networking with people. These are things you can be doing. All right, there's my 92-pound Native American Indian dog. His name is Caleb, and that's his best friend in the background named Teddy. And he has some advice for us. Balance your life and pace yourself. I have a client, I admire her so much. She takes it all down on Friday night, Friday afternoon. She folds everything up. She says, I don't even look at my phone. I fold it down and I take the weekend off. Smart, smart woman. Practices pacing herself. Practice gratitude. We still in this nation have so much to be thankful for. Protect your friendships, even when people say dumb things. Family does that too. You're going into the holidays. It's hard. How's the job search going? Don't ask. And they're going to say hard things. Amazon's hiring. Nothing wrong with that. Amazon's going to, okay, you get the problem. They don't understand. They can't. Forgive them. Let it drop off. Go find the kids. If there's kids in the house, play with them. It's going to be a little bit shorter and smaller in terms of what we're doing these holidays. But protect your family, protect your friendships, protect your head. And when you come through this, have no regrets at the way you've spent what money you have, the way that you've spent what time you have, and the way you've managed the relationships that you have. So that's the advice that Caleb, the Native American Indian dog, has for every job seeker. Oh, that brings us to the final Q&A with Ellen.
Okay,
Yes.
we do have one question.
All right.
Yes, from Rosa. Given the pandemic, it is a bit scary to network in person.
Mhm.
Besides LinkedIn, are there suggestions for where else to network? It is great to be able to chat with other participants of the Westport Library job search team. But is this now becoming acceptable on webinars?
So excellent question. Thank you. A couple things here. Zoom in the past, especially for job seekers, has had a free account. You could have meetings up to 40 minutes each. That's a good amount of time. So getting your own Zoom account, and also Zoom isn't very expensive. It really, really isn't, and might be valuable to be able to host calls. So that's one thing. I have a couple people with, and I FaceTime with them, or Google. There's a Google, I forget what it's called. Give me a minute. Google Duo. This is an iPhone, but I can Google with people on Android with Google Duo, and we can see each other, so we can talk. So that's another thing. And you can Google Duo several people, and you can use your phone to talk with people as well. Every Friday afternoon, I set my phone up on its little perch, and there's 3 people there that I can talk to. So there is virtual. I think that it is, especially if you're at risk, I think it's important to be smart, stay safe, manage your networking, but network. There's probably a ton of other people who are concerned. They're at risk. They need a job. They want to network. So you can be a conduit to help connect people. I meet with 4 groups every single week. These are clients of mine especially, and I invite people to be a part and connect every week. And we do it through I use GoToMeeting as well as Zoom. So that's an option, but I think it's $15 a month. or even a $6.99 version of Zoom that you can use. You might want to check into that. So there's ways to do it without exposing yourself until we know how this thing is gonna turn out. I hope that answered your question there.
Marcia,
Yeah.
Jill suggested that Google Meet is like Zoom, but it's free.
There you go. So Google Meet, the concern I have with Google Meet, it's the same with LinkedIn. Anything you post on there belongs to them. Anything you get free is going to be, they're going to take the content. Now, if you're looking for a job, that could be a good thing. So just be aware of that. Google Meet, excellent suggestion. Thank you, Jill. Do you have anything else, Ellen?
Let me see. I'm reading this from Rick. And he has suggested that he's an existing communications consulting business. He's fortunate to still have clients, but his challenge is how to get new clients. COVID has shut down a lot of avenues for new businesses, especially among companies that are very cost conscious about spending money on marketing, PR, etc. How do you go about getting new business?
Referrals. The people that you have, contacting them and asking, do you know some people that might need my services, and get a warm referral. Could I use your name, or would you introduce me by email? My office is in my home. I am a referral agent business. The people that come to me occasionally find me online, but most often it's somebody who recommended somebody who recommended somebody. So with that in mind, I actually track referrals and who they're from. And also, if you know people that are getting jobs, anybody you know, anybody they know, again, we talked a few ways on LinkedIn. Now, I don't suggest you try to go get work out of LinkedIn. So many marketers contact me and I'll connect with them, but I say, no sales, please. If they insist on selling to me, I disconnect with them. So, but referrals, talk to someone, what I've done and so forth. What do you think? If it's been valuable, do you know someone who might need some of my services? So it's networking. Anything else, Ellen?
No, nobody has posted anything else out on the chat.
Well, folks, Ellen first, thank you to Ellen and the library for hosting us and allowing us to come together this way. And thank you for coming. You probably know people. Suggest that they get in touch with Ellen if you have questions. Let's see here. I can put in the chat. You can find my email address, but my website was down this morning. That was disconcerting. My first initial last name at forwardmotioncareers.com. Let's see, Marcia M. LaReau, forwardmotioncareers.com. Click. There is my, there's my email address. Feel free to email me. I'm easy to find. I'm easy to find, and I'm happy to be found. So let me know how I can help. I'm happy when people connect with me and say, here's a question, what do you think? So it's much better than Quora when someone wants your input. Let me know. I was at the Westport presentation. I have a question. Connect with me, connect with Ellen. Thank the Westport Library for this marvelous thing that they're doing so that they get the funding they need. Okay, that's all I know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody.
Yes. All right. All right, folks. Take care. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.